Beat here on CLNS Media. I am Mike Kadlick, joined by 98.5 The Sports Hub's Alex Barth. We're going to do a mix of things today on Patriots Beat as this offseason continues. Talk about the Patriots coaching staff, specifically Jerod Mayo, who was requested by the Carolina Panthers today to be interviewed for their vacant head coaching position. We'll talk about the NFL's wildcard games coming up this weekend, Super Wildcard Weekend Part 2. And then we'll open it up for questions. Another interactive episode with you all. So pop your questions. Last on Tuesday, me and Alex kind of talked about what we think is going to happen in the offseason and sort of what we want to see, but we want to hear from you guys too. So throw it all in the chat and we'll try and answer.
Really, I just yelled about Mac Jones, and a huge thank you to whoever shared that on Reddit. That, appreciate you guys spreading the word of the show. Always love to see that. So whoever that was, I had like 3 people send me like this Mac Jones rant's incredible, and I'm like, you don't watch my show. What are you talking about?
That's hilarious.
And then they're like, no, it's on. So always feel free to share the show. We love that. Thank you to whoever did.
Yes, share it around. We appreciate you all. Let's start with Mayo. So yeah, like I said, Panthers requested to interview past linebackers coach Jerod Mayo. There's also a request out for him to interview for the Browns defensive coordinator position as well. He said before he wants to be a head coach. He's had interviews in the past. I feel like he sort of feels like a position where he can't turn this down. But I mean, if they're not going to give him the DC title here, he's got to kind of get out of here if he wants to be a head coach. But what do you think? What do you think of the move? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I thought he'd be gone last year. I've said this. I think he's going to be a great head coach. I think teams were stupid for passing on him last year. The fact the Chargers didn't throw a bag at him, and I know they're in the playoffs, but Staley still sucks. It's just a matter of time with him. I think this is the year he should get a head coaching look. I think the Browns is a no-brainer. In terms of where he goes, I think Carolina is one of the best openings right now. Honestly, I really do. And look, no team looking for a head coach is going to be perfect. If they were, they wouldn't be looking for a head coach. But you've got a blank. I don't want to say you have a blank slate to work with, but you can bring in your own quarterback. There's plenty of room for flexibility, but you still have a decent young core kind of there, right? They just took Ike Ekwonu high in the draft. You've got DJ Moore, and you got to figure out his contracts. You got DJ Moore. JC Horn on the other side of the ball, a corner. Jeremy Chin is a guy I really like. And you have all those picks. Brian Burns, thank you. Yes, Brian Burns, certainly. And you have all those picks, too, that you got from the Christian McCaffrey trades and these other deals. So, that's a great spot. I think that is, everybody's talking about Houston and Denver. And Denver can probably pay the most because those owners are rolling in it. But from a football point of view, which is the best job to take in terms of actually getting the football team rolling. I really like the Carolina opening. I think would be a great fit for him. We'll see who else they talk to. I like him as a candidate. I don't know that he's the best candidate in this cycle. That's probably Sean Payton because we know who he is, right? He's been there and done that. But yeah, he's getting all these calls. He's going to be one of the biggest names in the cycle this year. I think it's a matter of just where he ends up. I think he's gone.
Yeah, as far as candidates for that job, I wrote about it on CLNS, about just, the Panthers bringing him or trying to bring him in, and they've interviewed Frank Reich, Steve Wilks, and Jim Caldwell. So Wilks, I've heard the players in Carolina are sort of clamoring to bring Wilks back. He did a good job at turning it around, after they fired Rule and after they shipped McCaffrey out. They ended the season solid, and they ended up in a NFC South championship game at the end of the season. So I think he was good. You look at Frank Reich, what he did in Indy. He's a good play caller in Philly. I don't know. I think, like you said, it's one of the better jobs out there, and I think he's paid his dues. The one thing is the defensive coordinator title that he's yet to have. And he doesn't call the plays. Steve Belichick calls the plays. But Mayo runs the meeting. So I wonder if teams will look at that and it'll kind of, deter them away from Mayo because he doesn't have all the experience yet. But again, and I wonder too, if this is where the whole head coach shuffling thing, it becomes very interesting this offseason with the Patriots. So, because the other report that came out yesterday was that it was from Tom Curran and that Kraft and Belichick had their year-end meeting yesterday and changes are expected to be made. And Bill was on board. He did not push back. He's ready. He understands, and things are going to shift around. So when I look at where they are from all their coaching, and hear me out here because people aren't going to like this, but I think it's a real possibility. If Mayo leaves and they gut the offensive coaching staff, I wouldn't be shocked if they put Patricia on the defense back again with a guy with Steve Belichick, to not entirely hand it over to Steve, but to keep someone in the fold there who's done it before, because he did win 2 Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator here. That's why he got a head coaching job. So I don't know what you think about that, but that feels likely if Mayo leaves.
It's certainly possible. Bill Belichick clearly thinks very highly of Matt Patricia. Put aside how you personally feel about him, you being like everybody watching, right? You just look at the dynamic. Bill Belichick clearly thinks very highly of this guy. He seems like somebody Bill wants to have around one way or the other. He's going to try to put him somewhere. Unless Kraft gives the edict that he cannot be in the building, which I don't think Robert Kraft would do. In the tone of Curran's piece suggested that, right? That Kraft kind of said his piece without being that overbearing owner and saying, hey, this guy that you like, I don't want him here, is very overbearing ownerish to say. So I think Bill's going to want to keep him around, and we're a better place to put him than in his old job as defensive coordinator or defensive coordinator equivalent, basically what Jerod Mayo is now, right? Where he has a positional coaching spot and he is and he's taking on some of those DC type roles, right? So I wouldn't rule it out. Wouldn't surprise me. I also think there's a chance he just goes back upstairs like he was last year and kind of into that Ernie Adams type role. But
which I'm okay with him there. I sat here and I dug into Matt Patricia all season long. He's not an offensive coordinator. The defense here fizzled out a little bit towards the end, but I think Matt Patricia is a decent football mind to at least have in your building. I don't think he takes away. Like, sending him upstairs and having him be the senior football advisor role, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. He's not, I'm not clamoring to have him here either, but I don't think he has to be gone, because like you said, Belichick clearly trusts him and has a lot of confidence in him. And I guess it's tough to say after this year, but I do still trust Bill Belichick's judgment.
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere. And if there's a chance to make him the DC, I think they make him the DC.
The other thing on Mayo, Alex, I'm curious what you think about this. If they're not going to bring Patricia over and Mayo doesn't get a head coach offer, but he gets a defensive coordinator offer from, say, Cleveland, do you see Belichick trying to get him back and saying, we'll make you defensive coordinator here, maybe add on an assistant head coach title, and in order to keep him around here? Because that also, in turn, you would think demotes his son, Steve Belichick, in that process.
That's not going to happen. The other thing is it keeps the guy that is the next guy in the building, which Bill might want some distance from, especially in what's going to be a make or break year.
Well, so that's what I think Bill O'Brien might end up being here as, is another guy in waiting. So I don't see why he would bring in Bill O'Brien if he's not going to bring Jerod Mayo back either. So,
there's much stronger, I don't want to use the word vibes, but because if they it's just not going to, if they have a bad year next year to the point where Bill has to get fired, it's not going to be because of the defense. It's not. Right. So if they're that bad that Bill gets fired or they agree to part ways or whatever you want to call it, the guy who is running the offense isn't going to get the promotion.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point. Right.
So I just, I see where you're coming from. I just don't think it sets up there is some of that. I just don't think it sets up that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, speaking of the coaching staff, the Patriots and the Falcons are their coaching staffs are heading to the Shrine Bowl this year. Pats are going to take one team, Falcons taking the other. Interesting, because there's a lot of coaching shuffling here, and it sounded like one of the caveats was that you can't have coaching changes, but the Patriots are clearly going to do that. So when we were texting about it, you kind of made more sense, where there's not going to be a huge overhaul and a lack of staff down there to make it happen.
And it's like they don't want the Texans. They don't want the Texans because this is probably, they didn't agree to it yesterday and then announce it. This was probably agreed to 2 or 3 weeks ago, right?
Sure.
They didn't want the Texans agreeing to this and then canning their entire staff. Like, that's more what that rule is
Right.
about. They could still sign Bill O'Brien, reassign Matt Patricia. Like, that all happens in the background. That's not, although it will be interesting to see, when the Shrine Bowl comes and we're watching those practices. Is Bill O'Brien working with the offensive line? Is he working with the quarterbacks? Is he working with the
Right.
linebackers, right? Where's Joe Judge? Where's Nick Caley if he's still there? It's going to be
that'll give
interesting
us
to
a
see.
look. That'll give us a look, like you said, before any other look we get in, say, April.
Yeah.
So
It's a
that's a good
really
point.
unique opportunity. It's also perfect because Matt Patricia's offense was basically an all-star game offense where you're running like 5 super simplistic plays over and over again.
Yeah,
So
seriously.
he will feel right at home calling an offense in that game.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I kind of, when we were talking about it yesterday, I was like, and I obviously it came out and I wasn't thinking big picture, but I was like, why the heck are they going to coach the Shrine Bowl? Like, they have other fish to fry here and to kind of get their stuff ready. But you're right. It's a good opportunity. They drafted a few players from the Shrine Bowl last year,
They
right? Wasn't
drafted
Tyquan
4
Thornton
and
there?
signed 2. It was Thornton, Jack Jones, Pierre Strong, and I couldn't do who's the 4th one? Marcus
Cole
Jones at the
Strange? Or
no,
he
Cole
was Senior
Strange at the
Bowl.
senior, Marcus Jones at the Senior Bowl, and Bailey Zappi was at the Senior Bowl. Oh, Sam Roberts. Sam Roberts was the 4th.
Okay.
Sam
Yeah,
Roberts.
so
So,
good opportunity to get in there.
yeah, and it's funny. It sounded like from what Albert Breer said, maybe they wanted to do the Senior Bowl, where I would say
Okay.
there's the group of Senior Bowl prospects is better collectively,
Mm-hmm.
but the gap is not nearly what it used to be. There are guys at the Shrine Bowl who will go in the first round. I don't know if there's any top 10 picks, but there are guys at the Shrine Bowl who will go in the first round. It's also a deeper look at the class. Not as many
Right.
guys in the Senior Bowl go on day 3. They have a lot of late picks. They have 11 picks in total in this draft. 8 of those are outside of the top 100, or is projected with the comp picks.
Yeah.
But they're going to get a good up close look at these guys. They've never done this before under Bill, whether it's the
Mm-hmm.
Shrine Bowl, the Senior Bowl. They've never taken part in one of these, mostly because they've never been available.
Right.
It's going to be really interesting to see how they look at it. And it's also going to be interesting to see what they do with the Senior Bowl, an event they generally really like, because there is a little bit of overlap there.
Right.
Senior Bowl practices, I believe, begin on Wednesday. The Shrine Bowl game is on Thursday. So will they send people down there? Will they have the whole staff in Vegas? It's going to be interesting to see how they handle that.
Yeah, it's cool. Like you said, good opportunity. I think it shows that, Belichick's not going to take this 3-week vacation that everyone talks about, and they're not just mailing it in and waiting like they did last year. It seems like they're going to stay more involved this offseason. Quickly on comp picks, Alex, and I want to ask you because I'm not sure if it would be the year after or this year. Say Mayo takes a head coaching job. There's a Rooney Rule addition to the Rooney Rule that came out that if a minority head coach is hired from your system, you get a comp pick. When would that be? When would that happen for the Patriots? Is it a third round pick the year following?
It is a third round pick. I don't know. Let me look this up. That's a really good question.
Okay.
Hang on here, because like regular comp picks are delayed a year, right? Like you lose a free agent in the spring of 2022, you get the pick in the spring of 2023.
Right.
So Cleveland got one for hiring their GM, it would be this year.
Yeah, Andrew Berry.
So they
would be. Okay.
Now those might not be, depending on how many third round player comp picks those are. So those come after the player comps, right?
Okay.
So you get to, I think it's 96 is the final regular pick of the third round. Let me see.
Yeah, that sounds right. But
is it? I mean, I could just do 32 times 3, but I can't do that in my head because I can't do math. Yes, 96 is the final pick. So
96.
As long as I don't know how they order. The comp picks are ordered based on the players, like even within the rounds.
Right.
I don't know how they order the coaching ones. I think it might just be based. I think it's like GMs, then head coaches, then coordinators, and then within that it goes by record.
Okay.
If it's not a top 100 pick, it's going to be like 105, 110, right? Like in that fringe
Right.
range somewhere. So yes, they very well could pick up an extra third round pick.
Is it coordinators as well? I believe so, right? Like you just said, I think that sounds right. If they're hired as a coordinator, I'm pretty sure
Let's
they
see.
got
The
one as well.
Dolphins got one for hiring Mike McDaniel.
Yep.
The Rams got, or not the Dolphins. The Niners got one for McDaniel being
Yeah.
hired by the Dolphins. The Rams got one for Detroit hiring a GM. So not that one.
Okay.
Ryan Poles, the GM. Robert Sala, Martin Mayhew. Let's see here. I think it's just head coach and GM. That's my
Okay.
bad.
Got it. Got it. Well, that's something to look for too. Again, as we think about the way the coaching staff shuffle, and
Yeah.
as we look into the draft and the Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl as well. So let's get to let's do a rapid fire wild card weekend preview prediction. We'll go through each game from what's coming up first to last, and let's talk about it because I want to get your thoughts. It seems like a pretty chalky weekend, but again, you never know. There's upsets in the air all the time.
It'd be a lot funner if all the quarterbacks were healthy. That's kind of what's killing
Yeah,
it.
I know. Right.
Yeah.
Well, this one, non-healthy quarterback. Seahawks at Niners.
They're still starting their best quarterback.
I was going to say, Brock Purdy, I think, is 6-0 in his 6 starts. The Niners are 4-0, excuse me, something like that. But Niners have won 10 straight. Although they won on Sunday, I sort of think of the Seahawks as backing into the postseason because they won, but they still needed something else to happen. And
wait until we get to Miami.
Campbell,
but
right.
Great, real shining example of why we needed that 7th seed here this year.
Yeah,
real glad they added that.
Yeah, it's like the college football playoff. Why are we adding to? No, I'm just kidding. I knew.
No, that's different.
It's
different. It is different.
Yeah, but Purdy's the guy. It's the most plug and play system I've ever seen. And the Niners look legit. They've won 10 in a row. So how do you see this game playing out? What do you think?
Yeah, it's the Niners. They're going to keep rolling, like you said. Seahawks back in. The only thing that concerns me, I believe, I clearly prepared so well for this show, right, Mike? It's fine. I was working all day.
Always do.
I was working all day on something that will drop tomorrow. I'll just leave it at this. Something that will drop tomorrow on 98.5thesportshub.com and throughout next week that I think people are going to really like and really enjoy. And it's not a mock draft, not yet. That's day after the Super Bowl. So the only thing I wonder about here is it is super, super rare for one team to beat another team 3 times in a single season. And the Niners are 0-2 against the Seahawks, 2-0 against the Seahawks right now. So can they beat them 3 times? That's tricky, but it's a new quarterback. So I'm still taking the Niners. It might be close, but I'm taking the Niners.
Yeah, I'm with you. The game in San Fran, I don't see it. The Geno Smith thing, it's been a great run. Obviously, the way they came back from Russell Wilson, that whole thing. Geno's played well. He's probably played himself into an NFL job at some point next year, whether that be a high-end backup or a starter again. But, I'm with you. I don't see it happening. I think the Niners roll. They keep going. Next, Chargers at Jaguars. I love this game because
this might be the best game.
I think so too. I was listening to a podcast a few days ago, and they were talking about how there's no way that this game isn't going to be the 4:30 game on Saturday because usually that's the worst, and I completely disagree. I think I look at this game as
it's the worst in terms of market, but yeah,
I guess it's tough with Jacksonville, I guess, but still, this is
going to be a great football game to watch. It will not get good ratings. That's my prediction. It's going to be the best game of the playoffs that nobody saw.
Right, I agree, and it's 2 outstanding quarterbacks in the AFC that aren't Mahomes and Allen facing off. It's like there's still that storyline there. I think Trevor Lawrence has had an outstanding second season. Justin Herbert's probably my favorite quarterback in the NFL. Chargers started 6-6. They were on the cusp of the postseason, and then they won 4 out of their last 5. Herbert's playing like he can keep rolling. I bet the Chargers to win the Super Bowl before the season, so I'm kind of hoping they continue on. But the Jags are gritty. The game's in Duval, so I still think the Chargers win this one, but I think it's going to be close, and I think it's going to probably be high scoring.
Well, you talk about the Chargers run late. The Jaguars won
Right.
6 of 7, including 5 in a row after the bye. And
Right.
I'm sticking with it because this take I haven't been wrong with this take yet. It served me well. Brandon Staley's going to screw this thing up at some point, some way,
Okay.
shape, or form. He's got to go on the road. He's got to deal with probably some weather in Jacksonville, humidity, which the math guys do not like factoring in weather. What do you mean you're tired? The
Right.
spreadsheet tells me you shouldn't be tired. Um, Tremendously talented roster. I think the Chargers have the better roster, but again, Staley's due to shoot himself in the foot, just like Michigan in the college football
Right.
playoff. That's actually kind of how I feel about this game. So I think another close one. I think a very high scoring game, but I think the Jags pull it out, man. I really think they do. I think they end up, the Chargers are at some point late in this game will make one monumental mistake that's going to cost them, and the Jaguars
If
win it.
Yeah, adding on to this, if the Chargers lose, it's Staley's second season.
He's got to go. He
Get him
has to
out. That's what I
go.
was gonna say.
There's
But you
no
made the
excuse.
playoffs. You improved. Like last year, they didn't make the playoffs. This year, they did. If they fire Brandon Staley, that's the best job available.
Oh yeah, yeah, easily.
Like that's Sean Payton. That's, dare I say, Jim Harbaugh. That's if Sean Payton goes to LA with Justin Herbert, that's some scary stuff.
That's pretty electric.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't fully understand why Peyton is all over the Broncos. It might be the money thing, but
money. It's money.
Man,
It's money.
yeah,
It's like what did they found Walmart or something? That family that bought the Broncos,
yeah,
like they can throw. It's like Steve Cohen. They can throw the money around.
yeah, that's fair. Well, that's Saturday. Before we get to Sunday, I do want to talk about HelloFresh, Alex, because they make some pretty good food. It's the new year. We've all got New Year's goals, and HelloFresh is here to help achieve them. Skip the grocery store and take control of your time and budget with delicious recipes delivered right to your door. Looking for an easy way to eat well and save money this year? Cut back on expensive takeout and delivery and get started with HelloFresh. You'll love how fast, easy, and affordable it is to whip up a restaurant-quality meal, right in your own kitchen. With HelloFresh, eating well in the new year can be stress-free and delicious. With over 35 weekly recipes, they have the options you're looking for to help you achieve your goals. Choose calorie smart or carb smart recipes, or even customize select meals by swapping proteins and sides, upgrading your proteins, or adding proteins to a veggie dish. Eating well is top of your mind this month, and it's comforting to know that you always get top quality ingredients with HelloFresh. Their ingredients travel from the farm to you in less than 7 days, so you know they're always fresh. I just got my latest shipment of meals. My favorite's the one-pan tacos. They make it incredibly easy and fast for you to prep and cook. Go to HelloFresh.com/beat21 and use code beat21 for 21 free meals plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/beat21. Use code beat21 for 21 free meals plus free shipping. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Check it out. HelloFresh. Good food. Easy. Sunday. NFL Sunday. Dolphins at Bills play at 1. This is where the injuries come into play again in the backup quarterbacks, because you'll see it with Lamar. We'll talk about it later. But not only is Tua out this week, but Teddy Bridgewater is out as well. So the Dolphins are starting Skylar Thompson. Bills continue to have, motivation behind the Damar Hamlin situation and all that. I feel like they're going to keep rolling. I think the spread's up to like 13 points, and I don't see Miami coming close to covering that. I think this is going to be an absolute disaster in Buffalo for Miami and Skylar Thompson.
Yeah, the Bill, anything winning this by less than 3 touchdowns is a massive disappointment for the Bills. You're worried about the potential future. They got a slight quarterback advantage over the Dolphins starting Skylar Thompson, so I think the Bills win this one.
Yeah, talk about backing into the postseason, right? I think.
Yeah, they
AFC 7 seed. Yeah, go ahead.
They'd lost 5 in a row before they beat the Jets. Yeah, ultimate backing in.
And they were going to beat them like 9-6 if it wasn't for that safety at the end of the game. Like,
right.
They don't deserve to be here. The Patriots didn't. I'd argue that the Steelers deserve.
The Steelers would have been fun, and the Steelers and Bills. It's just two franchises that feel like they always play close games, right? Like, I'm not saying the Steelers would have beat the Bills, but I can get a little excited for Steelers Bills, even if it looks lopsided on paper. Like, that's old school Rust Belt football. Like, I'll sit down and be like, all right, I'm going to see something here. Like, this is going to be Bills Dolphins for and it's, you don't have that, beat a team 3 times because the Dolphins already beat them once. Right. So, Yeah, no juice, none for this game,
Yeah.
nada.
If it, like you said, if it was Pittsburgh, you get Kenny Pickett up there. He played football at Pitt. He wears the gloves. He can make something happen.
Yeah,
Maybe they ended the season well. Tomlin got his winning season again. So, but nope, it's the Dolphins, and they're probably
yep.
going to get spanked. Afternoon game, Giants at Vikings. This is where the perceived upsets I feel like start to happen, but I still don't trust the Giants yet. The
Well,
Vikings end up. Go ahead.
no, I was going to say that you don't trust the Giants. This game's fun because it's the two teams that all year were labeled as frauds.
Right.
This is the
It's
fraud
right.
bowl.
And right. The Vikings finished 13-4, but they had one of the lower point differentials in the NFL.
It was
But that
negative.
also, yeah. So like that also tells me though that they know how to win close because they
Yeah, their
were able to
record
win 13
in one
games.
score games is insane.
So like it's hard for me to not trust them because if the game's close, they're probably going to somehow pull it out.
Right.
Giants, I like Dayball, but I still think they need another year. It's in Minnesota, so I've kind of been back and forth on this one, but I think it's probably the Giants. But like you said, it's the fraud bowl because both these teams are they've kind of middled the whole season, but the Vikings just ended up a little bit better.
Mike, it kills me to say this, but this looks like one of those Giants teams, right?
Oh
That just
God,
figures it out late, is real scrappy.
Daniel Jones,
The quarterback kind of sucks, but like he's also making plays.
yeah,
This look, we're not in their path this time, so maybe I can enjoy it for once. But doesn't it kind of feel
yeah,
like one
true,
of those Tomlin teams that like just sort of figures out how to do it, and they're not the most consistent team, but they do what they need to do more often than not. You know, Saquon's had a crazy big workload this year, and I'm worried that he's
yeah,
got to be feeling it at this point. That's my biggest concern if I'm a Giants fan. But I like this Vikings team too. I just like Justin Jefferson. Like, let me take that back. I like Justin Jefferson. I think Justin
yeah.
Jefferson can single-handedly win games, but I don't know. This Giants team feels a little scrappy. I like a scrappy team on the road in the playoffs. I do.
Uh, okay, fine. I saw Dan Orlovsky tweeted or they tweeted out his quarterback rankings for the
Yeah,
playoffs today, and he has Daniel Jones over Trevor Lawrence,
that's gross.
and I was so disappointed
That's
because
so gross.
Orlovsky's been the man as far as like he's I just think he does great film breakdowns. He's
He's
on Team
excellent.
Mac
He's
Jones,
excellent.
which we
Yeah.
like. He does a really good job. The fact that he put Daniel Jones over Trevor Lawrence, I was like, what the hell are you doing? But
Maybe he knows something. Maybe he
maybe he
saw
does.
something.
Yeah, maybe he thinks that the Giants are scrappy as well. Sunday night game, Ravens at Bengals. Another repeat, and I don't know who won the first meeting. I think it was the Bengals.
I'll
No,
pull it up. I'll pull it up.
because this could be a 3 wins situation as well. I though think again as you pull it up, we'll
Yeah.
lay it out a little bit. Lamar Jackson is not going to play. Looks
They're
like they're
also
going to go with
they're
Tyler.
1-1. They're 1-1.
Okay, so that doesn't matter
Now,
here.
it is
But
really hard to beat a team back-to-back weeks too, is another one we talk about. But
true. Yeah,
um,
but again, without Lamar Jackson, it looks like Lamar. He tweeted today that it was strictly injury related, but I don't really buy that.
no.
That seems like PR, and I understand why he's probably holding out here. It's the football guy in me is like, well, you got to go play for your team and yada yada yada. But it is a business. He's set to get paid. If he gets hurt again, he might hinder himself. So I don't hate the decision, but again, it's going to be Tyler Huntley. Looks like if not, it's going to be Anthony Brown. Shout out BC. I don't see how the Bengals don't win by 10 or more. Like Burrow's just rolling. They continue to win. I think they finished the season winning 7 in a row. I think right now the Bengals are probably my Super Bowl pick. So I'm not going to pick
Same.
against them here, and I think they win handily.
I think the Bengals win pretty big. It's the F around and find out graph, right? The Ravens decided to F around with
Yeah,
Lamar Jackson, and they're finding out right now. If they had Lamar, this is a really good game. Two high-scoring offenses on a frozen
right.
field. AFC North football, two teams that know each other very well, play physically, all of it. Like, this would be such a great matchup. But they're not getting it. They
Yeah, it's not
can't
going to
keep
happen.
up. They can't keep up with this Bengals offense without Lamar Jackson. So I'm with you. I wish Lamar was playing. I do. I'm not going to fault the guy for taking care of himself, though.
Right.
If he had like a 5-year deal set, locked in, and he wasn't playing, I would look at it much more and be like, hey, man, you probably should be out
Right.
there. But, dude, his entire future, like, as long as he gets to the offseason healthy, he's going to be set for life, and his kids will be set for life.
Right. Right.
So
I can't fault him.
I can't fault him for it.
I heard, before we get on to the last one, I heard Brady Quinn talking about the Dolphins quarterback situation this week, and he basically, this is where I'm on the other side of it, and it's Teddy Bridgewater sitting out with a pinky. And it's like, again, I have a hard time faulting someone for taking care of himself. But
Right.
I wonder why Teddy Bridgewater can't go out there with a broken pinky and just try and sling it around, because he's probably a better option than Skylar Thompson, even with a pinky. When you
So
think
with
about
that
throwing a
one,
football, yeah, go ahead.
I wonder if, and I think I know what you were going to say. Say what you were going to say first, because my point comes off
Just
that.
that it's more so your ring finger and your pointer finger that are guiding the football when you throw, and you can kind of throw without your pinky anyway. And I don't know, I just feel like Teddy Bridgewater, a guy he's been hurt as well, but a guy who's been around, seems like, a team guy. For him to just not go out and play this weekend kind of seems odd to me.
I wonder if he thinks it's going to impact it, because he, like, Lamar could play hurt, have a stinker of a game, and still get a bag in free agency, right?
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater can't necessarily afford a performance like that in
Yeah,
terms
okay,
of
that's
getting
fair.
paid in free agency. So maybe it's not massively impactful, but maybe it's impactful enough that he's like, hey, I'm not going to look good if I go out there. Yeah, I might be better than Skylar Thompson, but
Right.
I'm not going to look good, and I don't need that to be the last tape I put out there before I hit free agency again, right? I kind of understand that one.
Yeah, okay, that's fair too. I get it. Again, it's all about the money in the end. That's what the NFL is. Before we get to the last game, pop your questions in the chat starting now, because we're going to get to all Patriots questions. So
Yeah.
populate it, and we'll get to as many as possible. Anything off season, anything draft, anything this past year, pop them in, and we'll get to as many as possible. While you guys do that, we'll talk about the Monday Night Football game, Cowboys at Bucks. Alex, Tampa stinks. They really stink, and I just don't know if Brady can overcome it again this time. I think the Cowboys are pretty good. They threw up a dud against Washington this past week, but I don't know. I don't really have much confidence in either of these teams, to be fair, but I don't like what the Bucks have done at all this year, and I think it's way too much for Brady to overcome. I think the Cowboys are going to squeak this one out.
I'm not picking against. Look, okay.
I know.
You have the Dallas Cowboys, who never win games in January, and Tom Brady, who only wins games in January. What more is there to say? Brady's in. Brady is in.
I
I
know.
don't care how he got
a seat
there.
at the table.
I don't care how he got there. He is in. It's Tom Brady. And I'm not saying I'm picking the Bucks to win the Super Bowl. I
Right.
think they
Of course.
I don't know exactly how the bracket works out. They get to either the Eagles or the Niners, and then that's that. But I don't know if that would be in the NFC Championship or
Right.
next round or whatever. Actually, no, it would be next round, because the Eagles have the bye and they're the seven.
Yeah.
No, they're not the
No,
seven.
they're the division winner.
I don't know them, but they're beating the Dallas Cowboys. This is the Cowboys. This is the biggest.
I don't know.
This is one of the most chokiest playoff franchises. There are franchises that choke more to the point where they don't get to the playoffs. This is the biggest playoff choking franchise in the history of the sport, against the most clutch, the greatest postseason quarterback of all time. It's no more complicated than that. None.
But they're so bad. The Bucks are so bad.
He will find a way. He always, Mike, since I was 6 years old,
Well,
I have watched him find a way in January. Why is this year any different?
Well, didn't they lost last week, didn't they? He barely played, but like,
they didn't.
I don't know. They lost. They finished the season. Oh, they finished the season 2-1. Okay, but they lost to the Falcons. I don't know. I understand it, and I've seen it, and I'm probably going to be wrong, but they stink. Like, Brady's all they have, so I'm going Dallas. But
if there's one guy who can be all you have, is there anybody you'd rather that be than Tom Brady?
No, of course not. Right. Yeah, you want the ball in Brady's hands in the playoffs no matter what. All right, well, that's our wild card recap. Let's get to some questions before we finish this thing off.
All right. I got a couple queued up here if you need.
Yeah, go for it. Hit it.
All right. If not DeAndre Hopkins, who's available for trade the Patriots should get? And Ashley brings up T. Higgins, Cooper Kupp. First off, did you see Cincinnati, like University Bearcats, just got a transfer wide receiver named D. Wiggins,
No.
who's also like a big outside wide receiver? So Cincinnati
That's
now
hilarious.
has T. Higgins and D. Wiggins. And boy, I hope whatever team T. Higgins is on drafts D. Wiggins.
Yeah,
That would be awesome. Which would be 2024 draft. He's going to have another year in college.
right.
That being said, Higgins maybe. I actually think the
I
Bengals might.
love I love the Higgins idea.
I think the Bengals might pay him. I really
Really?
do.
They're
I
going to have
think
to dole out a lot of money between Burrow, Chase, and T. Higgins.
they might figure out a way to just do that and let the rest of the roster be what it is. Move on from Joe
I
Mixon,
guess.
move on from the tight ends, move on from Tyler Boyd. That's a really good core. If you can keep that core together, I think you can figure out the rest of it. Cooper Kupp's not what the Patriots need. And that's not to say he's not a good player.
No.
But like we talked about this on
Right.
Tuesday, Mike, right? The 6'5" boundary receiver who's going to demand double coverage help, like all of that, right?
Right.
Kupp's not that guy. He's like a supercharged Kobe Myers. The guy I've talked about and I will continue to talk about is Jerry Jeudy in Denver. And last year his deal,
Mm-hmm.
he put up, and I'm rounding here, 7 catches, 1,000 yards, and not 70 catches. 70 catches. 7 catches for 1,000 yards.
7 catches for 1,000 yards.
Hell yeah. Sign me up, baby. 70 catches for 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns with that version of Russell Wilson throwing him the football.
Yeah.
I think he can play. That's the guy to me. If it's not Hopkins, it's Jerry Jeudy.
So since you rounded up, was it actually 1,000 yards, or was it
It's
like
like
998 or something like
960
that?
something. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
I would have said 1,000-yard
feel
season if I
He's
could have.
good.
I didn't remember the exact number. Usually I try to
Yeah.
give the exact. I think it was like 67
Got it.
catches and like 964 yards or something like that. But it was only in 15 games. So he's 1,000-yard pace.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
I love the idea of Higgins because he's
Yeah.
that boundary guy. It's worth the trade. You've seen it, and we've talked about it on here before. You've seen it with Tyreek. You've seen it with Diggs going to Buffalo. I think that would be worth it. The other one I think that's not on this list is Brandon Ayuk, who I know you're not a fan of that, but I just think that if they want to do this Shanahan stuff or they want a shifty guy that's not, I guess, if they're not, put it this way, San Francisco is not going to pay him because they're going to pay Debo and they're going to pay Kittle, and Ayuk is on the table. I'd rather trade for Brandon Ayuk than try and go back into the draft. And I think that he could fit well with Mac Jones. He kind of reminds me of like what Mac would do with, Jameson Williams and Devontae Smith. I know Ayuk's not as fast as those guys, but similar size and build.
I still put him in like that Devontae Parker tier, like that really good number 2.
Oh no, Ayuk's better than Parker.
No, but like that same tier where he's like a really good number 2.
Ayuk was their leading receiver this year.
Yeah, but
I know Debo was hurt.
He's playing next to Debo. He's playing next to Kittle. They have McCaffrey in the back. What's he really being tested with in terms of coverage? Right, that's what I guess. How many double teams is he seeing? How many number 1 corners are lining up opposite him? That's right. Is he still going to be able to produce that way when that's the kind of coverage he's getting? He might, I don't know, but I want somebody where I know the answer to that question, right? That's the kind of receiver they need to get. Ayuk on his own wouldn't be a bad addition, but I still don't think he checks the box that they need checked. Here's a follow-up. How about Deontay Johnson? How do you feel about Deontay Johnson?
I was going to ask. Okay.
Yeah.
I think he had like 75 catches for 1,000 yards this year, and he didn't score a touchdown. It was like the Jacoby Myers year here in Foxborough a couple years ago. Like, I like Deontay Johnson a lot. I thought he was really good with Ben Roethlisberger, and that whole offense kind of fell off this year. I mean, I know Kenny Pickett was in his first year, but I think Deontay Johnson's a guy who I would trade for him. I think that's sort of I would put him on the good number 2.
You feel about him like I feel about Ayuk.
Exactly. Okay. Like, I don't think Johnson's proven enough yet, but I think he has a lot of potential. But I would still, again, I would trade for him over going back to the draft.
I would as well, but I still want Hopkins or Higgins or Jeudy. Like, I don't think it's DeAndre Hopkins or Deontay Johnson. No, it's Deontay Johnson because you didn't get anybody from that first group. I
Yeah,
want to answer
right.
this one real quick. Um,
Okay.
uh, I do my first mock draft of the year every year, 985thesportshub.com. The day after the Super Bowl, that Monday, it'll be up. I don't know what your plans are in terms of this show. We
Hmm.
normally do from the end, like we start the week after free agency, so we do like 4 or 5. Evan never wanted to expand it beyond that. Y'all know I do. I don't know that we're going to do every week before free agency,
Right.
but we might mix 1 or 2 in before. We still kind of have to plan that out.
I was going to say we're going to plan that out. I'm thinking similarly, like you said, after free agency and a few weeks ahead of the draft. But I'm thinking we do a way too early mock draft within the next few weeks just to kind of
I
see where our heads are at.
I would
But
I would be
we'll
down for
plan
that.
that out. And okay,
Yeah.
I want more mocks, so I'm unlike Evan in this boat. So
Yeah.
yeah. Ideal free agent targets outside of bringing
Oh yeah,
back
we could do
players.
that part too. I mean, that's a whole thing.
There's a lot, and that we could do a whole show on that. But one thing is tackles and guys like
Mike McGlinchey,
who's that? Mike McGlinchey.
yeah,
The other guy was
Orlando Brown,
who, yeah, but there's someone else out there that I was
McGarry. I can't remember his first
Scherf,
name.
Brandon Scherf.
Is Brandon
Is it
Scherf?
Brandon
I thought he
Scherf?
signed extension. Is he?
I don't know, but again, I think tackle is number one in free agency. I agree with you as far as first round tackle and free agency tackle, and shore that up, and then go the Hopkins thing, like you said. But
Yeah, I don't think Scherf's a free agent, but
okay, it was somebody else. But anyway,
Elton Jenkins.
if you find another question, I'll look up the free agent tackles and see if
Okay,
I
let's
was.
see. What else do we got for questions here? Is our first pick DB, OL, wide receiver, best player available? It's got to be tackle. I mean, maybe a corner. You can maybe talk me into a corner, but I think it's got to be a tackle.
Yeah, I agree. I think it depends on how the board falls though, because if Paris Johnson and Peter Skoronski go, and like Jackson Smith and Jigba falls to 14. Again, it's so early, so we don't know
Yeah.
how these guys are going to test and how things fall in trades and stuff. But if both of the big name tackles go and JSN is still there, I would take a flyer on him because, and I
But
know
what
I've
about
said it
Broderick
three
Jones?
times
Broderick
now,
Jones,
probably
I
in the
think, has
show.
franchise tackle potential.
Yeah, I suppose.
I don't think all 3 of those guys are going to be 414. I just don't think they are. And look,
Yeah, that's a good question. One of them will fall to you, and I think you probably take him.
they know they can't develop that position. And you
Right.
look at their history the last 3 years.
Riley Reef was who I
Riley
was
Reef.
talking about.
Okay.
He's old, though.
Yeah. Look at their history the last 3 years. Throw positional value aside for a second. That means like quarterbacks being worth more than like running backs, right? The biggest hole on the depth chart in 2021 was quarterback. They took a quarterback. The biggest
Right.
hole in the depth chart in 2022 was guard. They took a guard. Isaiah Wynn's contract is up. They save about $10 million against the cap if they cut Trent Brown. What's the biggest hole going to be? It's not going to be wide receiver.
Yeah.
They have Kendrick Bourne. They have Devontae Parker. It's not going to be corner, Jack Jones, Jalen Mills. It's going to be tackle. I really think
Yeah.
pending them making some crazy moves, that's going to be the pick. But that leads us to this question. Do we think they'll trade back? Yes. I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to be like last year where they traded back like 15 picks. There's at least 4 franchise tackles that are going to go in the first round. You can probably trade back to about 20 and get one of those guys. I think that they're going to try to add a 4th top 100 pick. Move back to 20.
Yeah.
Pick up a pick late in the 2nd, early in the 3rd round. As long as they get one of those tackles, that's a great move because this is a great top 100 in this class. As long as they get one of those tackles, trading back isn't necessarily a disaster. Like, honestly, the trade back they made last year was a great trade. And they still could have had it. It's more about who they took after the trade. Like, people
Right.
knocked the trading back. They still had a chance to get who was the safety for Michigan? Dax Hill, right? They still
Yeah.
had it. There were a lot of good players still on the board, even though they traded back. It was the selection they made that ultimately made you
Yeah.
second
That was
guess that
bothersome.
trade. But
Right.
I actually thought they made a good trade to trade back last year. I wouldn't hate them doing it again this year, as long as this time again they picked the right player.
Right. Um, I want to do punter talk.
Okay.
Do the Patriots need a new punter? Because A, you love punter talk,
Yeah.
and B, it was a disaster this year. I mean,
Yeah.
Jake Bailey signs an extension and was really bad, gets hurt. Pilardi comes in, punts well for one game, stinks up the joint the rest of the season. Now Jake Bailey's suspended, and depending on how this grievance goes, maybe doesn't have his guaranteed money next season. So are you going back to Jake Bailey next year, or are we going into the draft? Are we signing someone? What do you think?
Well, look, if he still has the guaranteed money on his contract, if he wins the grievance, it's going to be really hard to get rid of him. So you have to keep him for at least
Right.
one more year. If not, Torrey Taylor, the punter from Iowa, is outstanding, and he's going back to school, so that sucks. It's not a great punter class. You probably have to dip into free agency at that point. I go for a 1-year bridge guy because I think there's going to be some good punters in the draft next year. Let me make sure I'm not missing anybody here. We don't have the full list of who's declared yet. I think there's still some guys trying to decide. Yeah, I mean, Michael Turk's not bad. They might need a new if Bailey loses that grievance, yes, they will need a new punter.
Right, I'm with you.
Let's do this one really quick. No, that's the one guy. That's the one guy. Nope. No.
I didn't hate it. I didn't hate the idea last year. And only because at the time, I think they already said no to Billy O'Brien, and it was either Adam Gase or Matt Patricia. Not really, but that was kind of what it felt like at one point. I was like, bringing an offensive guy instead of Matty P. Gase, and I don't know if we talked about it on this show or we talked about it in person, but I thought I remember saying to you just how Gase, again, it was with Peyton Manning, but he called the best offense in NFL history.
But right there,
year.
Adam Gase's entire resume is based on the fact that Peyton Manning used to visit him in his office a couple times a week. That is it.
He had a good year with Chicago too. He had a good year with Chicago as well. I'm pretty sure Jay Cutler's
hang on.
Jay Cutler's best season was under Adam Gase.
Jay Cutler's best season isn't saying much. What year was he in Chicago?
Okay, but
2015. He was there for 1 year. How good was it that he was there for 1 year? And they were the 23rd. They were the 23rd ranked offense in football.
He was there 1 year, and then he got a head coaching job, didn't he?
Jay Cutler that year completed 64. He went 6-9, completed 64% of his passes for 3,600 yards, 21 touchdowns, 11 picks. He had a quarterback rating of 92. He was fine. They were the 23rd ranked offense in football. They averaged less points, Mike, in that season than Matt Patricia's Patriots did this year.
What season was it?
2015. After getting let go by the Jets or the Dolphins, or whichever one let him go second, Adam Gase went to coach high school in Michigan. He went to a school that won. He was the OC. He went to a school that was in the state championship the year before, and the quarterback of that state championship team came back and had a negative touchdown to interception ratio under Adam Gase. He couldn't figure it out at the high school level.
So then why, all right, fine. I'll give you that one.
But I did Bruce Arians. He is just younger Bruce Arians. He had a great quarterback.
Super Bowl champion Bruce Arians.
He between Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, 2 other first overall picks that he failed to develop, he won 1 ring. With 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, 4 combined first overall picks. He won 1 ring.
I like this.
No.
Josh McDaniels wasn't great for a year either.
Josh McDaniels Josh McDaniels does have a little bit of that in his resume. Honestly, before last year, I kind of felt the same way about Josh McDaniels. And then he went out and he succeeded with Mac Jones.
Right.
I cannot.
I'm also not going to sit here and hitch my wagon to Gase either. I just thought it was a better option than Patricia for sure.
Maybe a little, but not by much.
I suppose. Questions. Drop them in. Can Belichick be fired? So, this year, is he allowed to be, or can they? I don't think. I mean, this season they're not going to fire him. Obviously, they've already made the decision.
Yeah,
the decision was made.
This is his
next year.
Season, yeah.
But let's take this for what it's saying. Next season, say things don't improve, do you think that Robert Kraft will and can fire Bill Belichick, or will there still be some sort of mutual parting ways? I'm retiring, etc. Like, you don't think they will ever fire
No,
Bill Belichick fired by the New England
it
Patriots?
would have to be something beyond football for that to happen. It would
Right.
a mutual parting of ways, or Bill ends up announcing his retirement. You're not gonna. They're not gonna fire him. They won't do that. Is
Okay.
there a chance that
I'm with
this
you.
is Bill's last year with the Patriots? Yes. But like this be 2023, they're not going to fire him. It would have to be so
Right.
monumentally bad. I'm talking about like, and I don't think Bill would do this, but I'm talking about like a John Gruden type situation, right? Where it's something
Yeah.
outside of football comes up. I
Something
mean
happens
that,
outside of football.
right?
Right.
Which yeah, he's not getting fired. I
Yeah.
want to get this one in here. Thoughts on Jordan Addison from
I was just
USC,
going to
Pitt
do this.
transfer. So I like him as a player. This is where the nature versus nurture thing comes in. Like him as a player,
Yeah.
brings a lot of exciting traits, very shifty, very good with the ball in his hands, explosive. I don't quite put him in that like Kadarius Toney, Wandale Robinson group because I think he's more of a pure wide receiver than those guys. I think he's a much better route runner. I don't like him for the Patriots. First of all, you have to take him in the
Okay.
first round. You're not going to get him after 14, and tackle and corner are just too big of needs to pass at that point. They would have to go banana land in free
Right.
agency to make that a useful pick. The other thing, they can't develop wide receivers. And his game, as explosive as he is still raw, still needs rounding out. Also,
Right.
he's listed at 6'1", 175. That I would take the under on both of those.
That's 5'10", 150.
They are going to want
Not
him,
150, but
a guy like that, they are going to want going over the middle, and he's going to take a beating. For
right.
everything we talked about Tyquan being too small this offseason, I thought that was a little overblown. I don't know with Addison. He might actually be, and look, there are ways he could work in the NFL. There are ways he will work in the NFL. I don't trust the Patriots to figure them out because they couldn't figure it out with
Right.
N'Keal Harry. They struggled right away to figure it out with Tyquan Thornton. Maybe that changes with the new OC, but I just not here. He could go somewhere else and be really successful. Certainly, like I look at him. What's the big craze? What's one of the big crazes right now in the NFL in terms of the draft and roster building? Reuniting college quarterbacks
Right.
with their wide receivers, right? So Addison from
Right.
USC, but transfer from Pitt. This has Steelers trade up and take them written all over
Yeah.
it.
Totally.
And
Yeah, it
that
does.
that one will work because the Steelers are the anti-Patriots when it comes to developing wide receivers. They churn them out left and right. They are to wide receivers what the Patriots are to corners and tackles. So I like him as a player. I like him as a prospect, but not as much for the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm with you. I want to do this.
Yeah.
Stetson
No,
Bennett, NFL
no,
draft stock.
no, no, no,
Two-time,
no, no,
two-time national
no.
champion, a winner, Alex, a college football legend, some might say, and somebody who a team is going to take a flyer on, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, he'll go in a
I'm with you
camp.
though. I don't think he has a
He's got that like edge where he'll hang around on practice squads and like he'll start some week 16 game and we'll all laugh about it and it'll be a disaster. He's undersized. He doesn't have the arm strength. He's got no room. Like he doesn't have a ceiling. That's the thing. He's 26. He's pretty much as grown into his body as he's going to get at that point. And
We have some breaking
we have
Patriots
some
news.
what?
Yeah, so the Patriots have announced that they have begun negotiations to keep Jerod Mayo on staff. They will also begin interviews with potential offensive coordinators next week.
Okay. I
That's
read
from
that
Mike
as
Giardi of NFL Network.
no, the Patriots just put out a release. I read that.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. I read that as the
Okay.
Patriots were interviewing Jerod Mayo for the offensive coordinator job. So I was a little confused. This is the
That's
kind
good
of
stuff.
this is what has happened.
Yes. So did they put it out on their website? That's kind of a weird thing to just put out in like a release.
Yeah, I can't remember them ever doing anything like this.
Interesting. Well, again, that's good news. They are interviewing for potential offensive coordinators. They're going to put a title on it. Is what it sounds like. Oh, it came from PR. The New England
Yeah.
Patriots and head coach Bill Belichick have begun contract extension discussions with Jerod Mayo that would keep him with the team long term. In addition, the team will begin interviewing for offensive coordinator candidates beginning next week. That's good stuff. I love seeing both of those things. That's like
All
impressive.
right.
I don't know, right? I mean, it's kind of
Yeah.
weird that they have to send out a release for it, but
So that tells me a couple things here. One, Kraft's worried about what this season looked like. This is Robert Kraft letting people
yeah,
know you don't need to worry about Matt Patricia. He's not coming back. We are going to get a real offense coordinator. That is coming from Kraft. This all comes from Kraft.
and we're keeping Mayo.
So here's
This
the
is a
other
Kraft
thing that
thing
this
for
tells
sure.
me. In contract extension with Jerod Mayo, that would keep him with the team long term. That
Yeah,
last part, he's the next guy. They think he's the next guy.
he's in waiting. Yeah.
Steve is there.
Wow.
Steve is there. Steve could be the DC. Like if you lose Mayo, they have a great defensive coaching staff. That group did not get enough credit this year. From Mayo to Steve to DeMarcus Covington, right? Keep going. Mike Pellegrino, Brian Belichick, like great staff. And also you're not negotiating with Jerod Mayo to make him a DC long term. He doesn't want to be a DC long
Right.
term. He wants to be a head coach.
That's
Jerod
that's
Mayo. This is them
this is
kind of signaling.
Coach and waiting.
And people are gonna spin this to saying it's Kraft putting pressure on Bill. Like, hey, like kind of what we just talked about, right? In terms of the next guy being in the building, And I don't know if I'm willing to go that far. I think Kraft likes Mayo. I think Kraft would love to see him be the next guy. If you want to go as far as saying it's him putting pressure on Bill, you can. I'm not going to go that far just yet. But they want him here long term. You don't aim to keep how old is he? 36, 37? I might be underselling that. You don't put out a statement
whatever it is
about keeping a 36-year-old linebackers coach long term unless you have bigger plans for him.
Right. I love it. Again, I think it's good because it's like you said, it's pressure from Kraft, and it, like you said about Patricia, it sort of corners Patricia out of the coaching staff, right? Because in one release, they announced that they are looking for offensive coordinators next week, and Mayo will stay. So Patricia's gone, and he ain't going to the defense either. It tells me, like you said, it tells me that just as much as it tells me that Jerod's the next guy in waiting. And good. This is
great. This is I love this. I didn't think that something like this was on the table.
Exactly what they needed.
But this to me is, and I said this at the top of the show, and we were talking about Robert Kraft does not want to be seen as a meddling owner. He wants to be seen as hands-off, trust Bill. This is Robert Kraft meddling without meddling. This is brilliant. This
doesn't usually come as a press release.
I've never seen anything like this. This is
why it's fascinating.
Well done. A+, the offseason is off to a flying start.
Yep, I like it. Okay, so again, that's our breaking Patriots news. Again, the Patriots and head coach Bill Belichick have begun contract extensions with Jerod Mayo that would keep him with the team long term, and they will begin interviewing for offensive coordinators beginning next week. That tells me Billy O, Zach Robinson, maybe Cliff. Maybe they bring in Cliff for an interview next week.
Well,
I don't know if he wants to take that low.
It says offensive coordinators, right? Plural?
Right. Well, begin interviewing offense coordinator candidates.
Okay, so that's more than one. So yeah, they might have a favorite, but they're bringing multiple people in.
Yeah, I'm excited to see who it is because that's good stuff. All right. Well, there was one question in here, and I want to find it because I want to tease what we're going to do next week. And that is, excuse me, give me 1 second. What is the Patriots' actual salary cap number? According to Miguel Benzin of Pat's Cap on Twitter, I believe it is around $35 million. But next Thursday, we're actually going to have Miguel on the show. At Pat's Cap on Twitter, he's the Patriots salary cap guru. He's all over. He knows everything about the cap. He's outstanding. He's a good follow. You should check him out on Twitter. He's going to come on the show with Alex and I next Thursday to break down where the Patriots are salary cap wise, what moves they can make, how trades can work with guaranteed money, all that stuff, and bring your questions because we're going to open it up for Q&A with Miguel as well. So again, their number's at like 35, but we're going to have him on next week to break that down with us.
Yep. We're just going to throw cap questions at him for an hour.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad. It would have been so easy for that to drop like right after we got off the air.
I know. I'm
Man,
happy.
we avoided the podcast curse.
Yeah, we did. So, do you have any other thoughts before we get going? I know we're going to want to go tweet and write about this.
So the actual did we actually read the statement in full?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I thought it's interesting.
Patriots. Hold on.
What?
So, this is kind of obvious, but this is not like we're going to try and re-sign Jerod Mayo.
Yeah.
The announcement is Patriots to extend Jerod Mayo. So, they're going into negotiations, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. They worded it as Patriots to extend Jerod Mayo.
So, the one other thing here that's very interesting in this, they didn't say that New England in the body of it. Can we hang on?
I have it up if you need it.
I want to pull it up. Is it on screen? I want to pull it up on the screen. Do you know how to do the screen share?
I can put it on screen.
Yeah, can we get it on the screen?
I'm
just going to let's see here, because I want to point this out. We're going to go. This is incredible. Okay. I've never seen anything like this.
All right, screen picture in picture. Is it this? Hi, that's not it.
Nope. Hang on.
If you can do it.
We're losing so much.
Oh, share screen.
Yeah. Here it is. Okay. You should be able to pull it up now.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. So the other interesting thing here. So you pointed out, Mike, in the headline. I wish I could illustrate this here.
Yep.
I
know, me too.
You pointed out. Can you see my mouse?
Yes. Yeah, we can see
All right, you pointed out in the headline here. Patriots to extend Jerod Mayo. But here's the other one. The New England Patriots and head coach Bill Belichick have begun contract extensions with Jerod Mayo. Not the Patriots. The Patriots and head coach Bill Belichick.
Right.
Bill's involved. This is Bill.
Right.
Maybe it's Robert Kraft in the background with the puppets, but Bill is doing this on his own volition. This is Bill.
Excellent. Well, that also tells me that Robert wanted the release out there, and Bill is like, okay, but we're putting my name on it too. I'm not letting you completely run the narrative. I'm involved in this too, and I'm not letting it run the opposite way. So again, the wording is key. I'm reading into Patriots wording much more now after Jelani Tavai nonsense this offseason. And Patriots to extend Jerod Mayo. They're not trying to. They're not. I mean, again, they announced contract extension, but they are going to extend him according to the title of the release. So looks like Jerod Mayo is staying.
That's going to have to come with a DC title. It's going to have to. I can't imagine.
And assistant head coach.
You think so? What does assistant head coach mean? I mean, I don't know. Although, again, I guess
it's a title. It's a title game, though.
If the plan is to set him up as the next guy, assistant head coach is a pretty good call.
Right.
This is also what we said before. The other interesting thing about this, who was not mentioned? Matt Patricia. It would have been very convenient for them to, if they were going to fire Matt Patricia, which we discussed earlier, we don't think they will. It would have been very easy for them to fire Matt Patricia in that statement. This is what we've said all along.
Yeah.
The waiting for the report of Matt Patricia getting fired, that was never coming. It was this.
Right.
It was the next guy being hired was going to be announced before Patricia being reassigned. And here we are.
Right. And again, I said it earlier, but I want to reiterate. It's the offense on top of Mayo staying is basically putting Patricia back upstairs. Because not only are they looking for offensive coordinators, but they're not going to move Patricia over because Mayo is going to be here. So they're looking for OCs and the defense is set up. There's no place on the coaching staff for Matt Patricia.
Well,
And
maybe
that's basically what
maybe
this
if
release comes
maybe
down to.
Jerod Mayo loses the linebackers coach title, right? Maybe he's DC, AHC, and then Patricia becomes the
Perhaps,
linebacker. But
perhaps.
you know what? Make him a
I
linebackers
don't
coach,
see it though.
whatever. It could be so
Yeah,
much worse.
seriously.
Make him if he's the linebackers coach, and by Jerod's still there, basically looking over his shoulder.
Right.
Fine. You know what? I can, after what I'm not going to bitch about little coaching things after what we just went through. I'm really not. If he's going to be the linebackers coach with supervision from Matt Patricia, from Jerod Mayo, the damage is contained. The damage is contained.
Right. 100%. Good stuff. All right.
Oh, wait,
well,
hang on.
That's a way to end the show.
This is a really interesting
here.
question. Any chance Jerod Mayo has a say in the OC hires? If the plan is to make him the next head coach, maybe that means we have a timeline on Bill. If we find out Mayo has a say in this, that is massive. Not only does that mean that he's in line to be the next head coach.
How are we going to find that out, though?
One of those, like, Jeff Howe.
Yeah, I guess.
Probably not in a statement like this, but yeah.
Okay. Sure.
That not only would confirm that Mayo's the next guy, but that Bill's really, like, heading out the door. Like, potential final year kind of talk begins. So, very, very interesting way to push it.
Good stuff. Well, you got our live reaction. Do you have anything else before we kick it?
I'll think of like 5 things when we pop off here, but
I know.
For more on Twitter at Real Alex Barth.
I was going to say, a good way to end the show. We'll react. We'll write about it. Check us out on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Mike Kadlick, Alex at Real Alex Barth. We'll be back next week. We'll do some Q&A. We'll do more off-season stuff. I'm sure we'll end up touching on this release as well because surely there's more to come out. And then we'll have Miguel Benzin at Pat's Cap on next Thursday to talk Pat's salary cap. So, again, for Alex Barth, I'm Mike Kadlick. Patriots extending Jerod Mayo, starting offensive coordinators next week. Breaking news. So, we'll be back next week to break it all down. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.